And that's his.
Probably spinning a little bit.
There's plenty of chairs on the back.
Yeah, he has a.
Nope, it says watch live now.
Yeah.
Yep, yes, I noticed. We're good.
Okay. All right.
I'll put it in.
Okay, so notice it's red. If it's turns a different color.
I'll be there.
Yes.
Is there a little bit of feedback in the?
Yeah, shut it down.
I think people are gonna hear a lot of rattling on the table too.
Well, they got it turned up so that people can hear you.
Some things are never gonna change.
Okay. So with that in mind, that's a given. That's a given. Because he just turned it down. There's nowhere on that. It doesn't. You speak it, somebody speak in the microphone.
Can you hear?
No.
Hear this one.
Can you hear?
That's good. All right.
No?
Nobody ever asked for it.
You're
That's what I was wondering if I had.
No, I saw you, there was nowhere to put anything, there's no number or anything on my certificate anyway. Good.
Okay.
I just have all kinds of stuff.
I got 7 o'clock, so we're good.
Yep, I got one.
All right. 6:50 rounds. According to AT&T. Hang on.
Yep.
All right, my phone's at 7 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Hideaway Hills Club Board of Trustees for September 17, 2019. You have the agenda in front of you. May I have a motion to adopt this agenda?
So moved.
Scott says, makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Tom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The President's report. Here we are again. The summer is coming to an end, folks, even though the temperature is still summer-like out there. But again, I think it's noteworthy to thank all of our volunteers and committees for really a great active summer. Fairly safe. We've had a few problems that we've had over the last month or so, but for the most part, I think most of our members have behaved very, very responsibly and in a civil fashion to one another. And so I think we need to all recognize that. The major committees that have all of the main events of the summer, the golf committee, the social committee, lakes, I mean, literally all of the committees, but nevertheless, I think there's special recognition and thanks we need to give to all of them because they've made it, for me at least, the busiest summer that I've seen. One other thing to note, the management committee does have a vacancy. It's been posted, the applications are available, so if anybody is interested in that, I know we've already had a couple very strong applications, and not to discourage anybody, the more the merrier, but I'm hopeful that goes well as we go forward. The other thing is, if you noticed as you drove up the main road today and went by the small lakes, the first Arrowhead has definitely gone down quite a bit, Tomahawk not quite as much yet, but nevertheless, we're looking forward to starting that project. I think we wrote the explanation for why we went ahead with the project at this time. Simply, it was a good fiscal decision to make. It was something we needed to do, and it was an active decision to make sure we didn't make things worse going forward. So we hope to have that project started here fairly soon before we have any further problems with those dams and then the roads and the causeways that are involved in the project. So that's happening. I give thanks to the Lakes Committee for having the foresight to have money that they were able to commit to it. And similarly, I think the management committee has made the right call on that. I can't see anything else that we could have done. So I commend you for your decision on that. And of course, the board went ahead and approved it as well. That being said, let us go now to the correspondence. And Annie, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we have one letter. Dear HAH Board of Trustees, we would like you to consider the gifting of Lot 5 to the club. This half-acre parcel was originally connected to Lot 4 when we owned the house on that property. In July of 2017, we decided it was in our best interest to sell Lot 4 and the home on it. At this time, we split the lots and kept Lot 5 in our name so that we could maintain our membership. HAH means so much to us, and we felt this would be a way that we could still enjoy the amenities and continue to create memories. As time has gone by, we realized we are not able to make it to the hills as often as we'd like. We offered the property back to David Miller, Lot 4, free of charge, but despite our multiple attempts to contact him, he has never responded. Our next option was to offer the owner of Lot 6. After researching that option, it was discovered that the club owns it. Our hope is that you will accept this donation with us covering all costs. This would make Lot 6 more appealing as a double lot totaling an acre in size. During its existence, Lot 4 and 5 were joined as one and generated one monthly HOA fee. Once split, both lot owners paid their dues. The club has benefited from over $4,000 in HOA fees and $400 of road assessments from Lot 5. We ask that you take this into consideration as you decide whether to accept our donation. We have only used the amenities a handful of times over the last 2 years, and we find the cost outweighing the benefit. We also feel by purchasing the home on Lot 4 in the poor condition it was, we were able to remodel a home that increased home value increase in HAH. We look forward to your decision. Kind regards, Derek and Amy Robinson, Lot 5.
Just for those of you who are new, the general rule that we have used, that we implemented several years ago, regarding taking back lots is that the board has the ability to take back the lot, though we only do it in the sense that it's something that we want, the lot, it makes value for us, because every so often somebody will, especially people who have lot only members, will come back and say, well, I just don't want it anymore, and so we have not, as a general rule, taken them back unless it seemed to make sense for us that it would be saleable. Just to take it back and have another club lot doesn't make any sense. So this lot here, I looked at it, Randy looked at it, it's a very steep lot. It's right up front. And we didn't think that it made sense for us to take back, even with joining in with the other one. I guess at this point, I would recommend anybody who wants to take a look at it themselves to go ahead and do that. And we can revisit this topic next month, unless people just aren't interested at all. So that's sort of, Randy, do you have anything to add to that?
I didn't feel that it, and I told them this, but I didn't feel that it was a billable lot, and that I told them that I doubt if the board would be interested in taking it back. And obviously they didn't accept that. And
The lot next to it is a club lot?
yes, yes, it is.
But they live in a house next to the lot?
No, so they sold their house to Dave Miller, the other Dave Miller.
Okay.
Which is right above where the dumpster and maintenance is.
Well, we've had meetings
Yeah.
about David.
Yeah, so they sold their house to him, but they had two lots,
Oh,
4 and
I
5.
got it. All right, now I
And so
understand.
they held on to 5. Now, they don't want to hold on to 5, they want to, but 6 is ours. So that would be the only thing that, even with 5 and 6 together, again,
Yeah,
I mean,
I should give it to Dave Miller.
well.
They tried.
they tried. He wouldn't respond to them. They tried getting hold of it. He wouldn't respond.
Maybe the people on lot 101 would take it back. That's conjoined, or it's touching 101.
On the backside, possibility.
I'm just looking at it right now.
In my opinion, it was not a sellable lot.
Those are real awful steep right in that area.
The view is, I didn't say that. Anyway, so I guess what I would recommend is, you've all heard the letter tonight, not to take any action tonight, review it, and if anybody feels like it, we can bring it up again next month. All right. I was remiss, Jim Lloyd is absent. He's over doing the radio disc jockey job at the Little Brown Jug, and then Linda had an injury today, and so hopefully she's doing well, but she gave me a call late morning, and so she's excused from the meeting also. Everybody else is here. let the record show that they were both excused.
All right, I'd like to propose a motion to consider the minutes from our last board meeting. Any concerns about the content?
We have a motion. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Scott seconds. Any further questions of the secretary? I had one. How was it doing it for the first time?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Christina's really helpful.
Yeah, she did a great
I mean, I get an email from her at like 8:45 on Wednesday morning. Will you please give me your president's report? Nice. Anyway, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving along, Mr. Weibel, a treasurer's report.
I'd like to make a motion that the treasurer's report be accepted as of August 31st, 2019. Our balance in the Benton County Bank is $129,597.74.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Scott's. Scott, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Management Committee report. Mr. Kirk is back from the west.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. President. Management meetings are now live, by the way. The last Tuesday's management meeting, thanks to help from Eric Lapp, was live and now is on our website, right beside all the board meetings on YouTube. It's unfortunately at the moment it's identified as a board meeting. Eric is going to, either Eric or Penny are going to change that so that it's actually identified as a management meeting. But we are live. Next, Lodge staffing, still struggling to staff, but have a couple of recent hires that are helping them as they get trained to be able to handle the business. We're also probably tomorrow or Thursday starting an ad in the Lancaster paper, for openings upstairs. And lastly, concerning the lodge, our winter hours start tomorrow. Mr. President, you'll be happy to know that they're now open again on Wednesday nights. And I'm sure that your comments and feedback had a lot to do with that.
I don't think so. Probably slowed it down, I expect.
No, not at all. Next subject, Food Service Committee initial meeting was on August 29th. We had a couple people who couldn't make that meeting that are part of the committee that hopefully will be there this Thursday when we have our second meeting. First meeting was basically a get to know each other, and Dan and I shared a considerable, we killed a tree, giving them copies of PRLs and all kinds of historical data so that they would know what's been going on.
Yeah, that was
You
fun.
have a friend.
I think so. But when we meet this Thursday, there was some homework to be done, and we're going to look at quite a few different things and some events and that sort of thing to try to help upstairs and the clubhouse. The Management Committee member search, which you mentioned earlier, as an update, we've received 3 applications. And we posted it once in the Echo, and I believe one e-blast has gone out, and we're going through that cycle twice. So the next Echo, which the deadline is this coming Friday, will also have the one ad, or whatever you want to call it, out there that we're looking for nominees. And then shortly after that, but the last e-blast will go out. We'll give it a few weeks, kind of see what we get, and move on in the process from there. The Management Committee approved, we discussed this at June 18th board meeting. The Management Committee approved the use of glycophosphate weed killer products, but only for certain areas of Hideaway Hills. Those areas would be the old ball field, which is now trailer parking and boat parking, the boneyard, and the ORV track. These products are not approved for most of the other Hideaway Hills common areas, especially the playgrounds or the garden areas. As I said, that was discussed June 18th board meeting. The application was handled by a volunteer, and it seems that there's the possibility that that volunteer got a little overzealous and sprayed a couple other small areas. The guardrail above the dock and canoe area there, the Eagle Claw being one of them. We'll kind of have a conversation with that volunteer, and hopefully that doesn't happen again. Lastly, the management committee recommends that the board of trustees add vaping to the Hideaway Hills no smoking policy to be enforced the same as smoking. I'm guessing you probably need to send that to Constitution to write it into the rule or whatever. We've had some instances of some people walk in the clubhouse, sit down, and start vaping away. It's true, it's not technically smoke, it's a water vapor, but it still has an odor at times, and we just feel that that should be included in the no smoking policy.
Any questions?
I have a question. The volunteer that sprayed the Roundup or whatever that material was, are they licensed to spray that?
They don't have to be.
They don't have to be.
No, sir.
Jim, why did a volunteer do it?
I thought you said you weren't gonna spray any when we came to the management meeting and talked about this before,
And then we talked June 18th.
about having somebody licensed or looking at.
We did, you can buy it across the counter.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to be licensed. If and actually we have a licensed person, Elmer, I believe, is licensed for spraying herbicide and pesticide.
Yes.
So according to Dwayne, who was here at that 18th meeting of June 18th, if you have somebody licensed, then, you know, any other employee could have sprayed it. But when we used a volunteer, because he volunteered to do it, and volunteers, it's like you or me doing our driveway. We don't have to be licensed.
Well, I mean, it's not our driveway, it's common property. I thought the rules that I read said that you can't spray it on common property.
What rules did you read?
It's EPA rules, and they're pretty extensive. We brought all the paperwork to the management meeting that we came to, and the deal was, I thought that you were not gonna spray anymore, and we let the matter go.
Well, that was before we talked about it. You and I actually
Right.
discussed it at the June 18th meeting.
At the June 18th meeting, I do not recall ever saying I was okay with spraying it in
Well,
here. I mean,
I don't think we need your permission.
I don't think well, you may need somebody's permission, but I'll check into it.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I'll go back and watch the tape, but that was not what I recall at the meeting. I recall, Dwayne saying that, yeah, he was licensed to do it at, whatever school he worked for, and that he could do it, and, but I didn't never remember hearing that Elmer was licensed for it, or that if one person on our maintenance was licensed, anybody on our maintenance could do it, or that we could use a volunteer that would actually be, if they're a member of this club, they're working for the club. I'm sure we paid for the material. They didn't volunteer the material up, so it's no different than us doing it.
How about if we research that?
Well, I will
That,
research.
that part's true. We did pay for the product. Dwayne specifically stated, when you go back and listen to it, you'll hear it, that if there's one person licensed, then people under that person can apply the product. And I think at the same time, we said we would share information from Steve Cundiff, which we did, that, and Steve that's his business, is agricultural products, herbicide and pesticide. And part of the paperwork that he gave us was, we don't need to have anybody licensed, and it's not illegal for us to use it on areas like the Ball Diamond or somewhere, as long as we're not about to use it on the playground or the somewhere where there's going to be a lot of kids around. We wouldn't do that, but we're going to do it in the areas where that's pretty much the only way to maintain them and get rid of all the grass and weeds.
Any further questions?
Is there something environmentally friendly that you can use, or is it
No.
not as effective?
Hot water, boiling water.
Well, there's a mixture of Dawn, so vinegar or something like that, and there's a few people in here that try it, and as long as you reapply it every time it rains, it kind of keeps them down, but unfortunately, there really isn't any other product out there that works as well as that one does.
Well, that's all gonna have to be mowed anyway around those trailers. I mean, they killed the weeds, but they're still this high.
Well, unfortunately, there's 2 times when the trailers aren't there, and that's usually on a Saturday. You know, when they're pulling the trailers out of that park to put the boats on them, we probably ought to try to schedule a couple guys to be there on top of the ones that are moving the boat trailers for everybody to run through there with a mower as they're moving the stuff. Because otherwise, you can't get in there and mow.
Sounds good. Okay, well, let's research it and we can bring this back up again. Yeah, my recollection is, and certainly with Dwayne's comments were that we were not doing anything illegal. I know there's a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of lawsuits. You can't hardly turn on the TV in the cable stations without attorneys wanting you to sign up with their firm if you know somebody who's got some illness. So, but again, I thought their suggestion that they were only going to put it in the 2 places which are not high use places, I thought was the county uses it all up and down our roads. Agriculture, it's widespread and everywhere. I know there's a lot of folks that don't like Monsanto and the lawsuits, but at the same time, it is legal. We know that. Okay. Anything further at all, Jim?
No, sir.
Eric? Mr. Sweden?
Thank you very much, sir. I don't have a whole lot tonight. I was off last week. I do have a couple things here that, and actually my numbers are not updated. Fortunately, my delinquency total is not updated. I apologize for that. But I just want to let you know security is now up to full staff. We brought back Mike Blevins, who was a full-time security guard. We had filled his position, so he agreed to come back as part-time. So now we have a full-time staff and 2 part-time folks out there. And so that is great, just in time to start the package deal at the guard shack, because we'll be getting them. I was down there today and they were already starting to get crammed with packages. So it's good to have him back. He's going to help with that. Another thing that I told Mr. Krieger at the beginning of the meeting, that I do have signature cards that's going to have to be signed. And so we'll get to them after the meeting. I also, quite a few years ago, we have put together a code of ethics document, and so I've got them here. If you want to pass them around, those will need to be signed and turned into the office. And also conflict of interest policy, which is standard. If you want to take one of those and sign them, and you can turn them back into the office as well. I received the committee assignments, and I have a couple of questions, comments about the committee assignments. For one thing, Eric, you've taken on the utilities committee, and Rick Byron is no longer able to chair that committee.
Yep.
So you may want to advertise and get to see if you can find somebody else to chair that committee. Also, I see we have 2 board reps for the Constitution Committee. I didn't know if you were sharing duties with Greg and Linda, are both the board reps for the Constitution Committee. And so you can make that decision how you want to handle that. If you want to co-chair or co-board rep, it doesn't matter to me, but that's one of the things I saw. And then as far as, and Greg, the chapel committee, is that Teresa Jordan alone, or is that Teresa and Ty both?
Ty is technically the chairman. He
Okay.
does what Teresa tells him to do.
Okay, well, we've got Teresa down as the, yeah, Teresa down as the chair.
You really didn't
I
say
didn't know if you
it.
wanted to-
Well, she's working full-time, and she's also taking a course to be a PhD level course, and she just doesn't have any time for the paperwork.
I didn't know if we should change that or not.
I'd leave it, yeah, I think you should leave it, Ty.
Okay, well, his name wasn't on here, so that's the easy question. Okay. That's all I had.
Mary Beth, you had an opportunity to look at these documents. Did you have any response to them, or?
On the, you're talking about the ethics and conflict?
That's correct.
I think it's a good idea for everybody to read it through and make sure you understand all of the potential problems there could be before signing it. So I like the idea that Randy said, take it and just make sure you get it back to the office so people have time to look it over carefully.
This new, excuse me, did we sign this last year? I don't recall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when we started, because of that, we started last year, I believe.
Maybe that wasn't at the meeting. It was in November. I missed the November meeting, I guess.
It's possible.
I honestly don't ever remember seeing this before.
Well, wasn't it Val that kind of spearheaded putting that together?
Yes.
Yes.
And so it would have been, so Val hasn't been here for 2 years. It's possible we didn't do it last year. But
I think
anyways, but
I think the big thing, what I saw is that people just, in particular on the conflict of interest, I think you just have to ask yourself if there's things you're learning during board meetings or in your work here that cross over to things you could profit on or have business with. And really, we need to remove ourselves from anything where there would be a conflict of interest. And that's part of our fiduciary duty to do that. So you shouldn't be involved in discussions or voting on anything where there's that conflict.
I think I received a gift in excess of $50 from a member of Hideaway Hills.
You're off the board.
Maybe I shouldn't sign it if I think it's something silly to me.
Just read it and see if you have
Yeah,
questions.
this is really
I
bad.
mean, if you want me to be legitimately, if I had a birthday, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gave me a bottle of scotch that was in, I mean, I'm friends with a lot of members of Hideaway Hills.
Well, I think there's a difference between
It
that.
says gift from a member of Hideaway Hills is what it says right here on the paper.
So maybe disclose it.
I don't know that.
My
there's
friends aren't
any,
buying me $50 bottles, unfortunately. I need to hang with you.
probably you were lucky to have me as a friend.
It wasn't you.
I get $10. Well, I suppose everybody could read it and see if they have questions, and we could talk about it at the next meeting if there's more questions.
I think that's fine. I mean, if you feel comfortable signing it, then you can. If not, we can wait till next meeting. I mean,
That's fine.
yeah, rather than forcing anybody into making an ill-advised decision or one that they're not comfortable with, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Any further comment about that?
No, but I have a question for Randy. And I don't even know if you've looked into this. In Columbus, I saw like a UPS station where you could get packages dropped. Have we looked into that
I
around
have
here?
not.
We're not like a high traffic area, so I get that. but-
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I
Okay.
have not had a chance to do that
But
yet,
that may be a partial solution as well.
possibly.
I'm happy to help with that.
Okay, thank you.
Back to your staffing, Jim. Have you been able to staff more people in the kitchen upstairs?
That's one of the, might be both of the hires. I got a text or an email, I don't remember which, from Brandon as an update somewhere around New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma in my drive. You know, try to do this. They got the 2 hires, at least one of them's in the kitchen.
Okay. And how, is that gonna impact pizza at all? Or when?
Let's hope.
Okay.
We're having a meeting with him Thursday, Brandon,
Okay.
and I'll get an update then on what up.
Do you feel comfortable sharing the number of the people who joined the food services committee? Some of the names of the folks?
I would if I had it with me.
Okay.
John Blankenship, Rita Wilson,
Lynn Hickey.
Dan Donovan, myself, you, who else was here? Nancy, or Kathy
Right.
Clevenger I hope she'll be here Thursday night. She was excused, she was traveling, I think she was out of state even. There was two others, there's a,
Mike Brillard.
thank you.
And then there was the one lady who was here, oh, I should look it up, that, she does catering.
That was Rita Wilson.
No, I think so. Okay,
I thought it was.
okay.
I felt a whole lot more comfortable with those names if I had the list in front of
I
me.
understand that, yeah. I just wanted to share that. It's a large group, obviously, but at the same time, it brings a lot of folks who bring different skills and groups to us, and hopefully some creative ideas and ways to go forward, both with marketing as well as production issues. So, I see you're looking for the names.
Yeah. Mike Jones
Yes.
and Mike Brillard.
Okay.
And, Pam Wilson, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And Lynn Hickey and, another one, but I can't tell by the email address what the name is. Sorry.
No problem. I just, let people know that it's a large group, and already you've gotten a bunch of questions from them, I know, in terms of various and sundry things that people want to see. Randy, the reason two people were on, they both are on the Constitution Committee. Both Linda and Greg both indicated they wanted to stay on it, so if one wants to be rep, I don't think so, wants to be.
Why don't you let the sitting board member be the rep?
That's
Ex officio is supposed to be enough.
I don't know about
Won't go as far as enough.
Well, that close.
All right.
Hey, Randy, do you have any updates on the liquor control inspection and so forth?
Haven't heard anything back from them.
Okay, so the status right now is they're supposed to be coming here to look at our facility, and once they do that, then we should be free to go on the ballot. Right? Okay.
As long as they approve everything, which I don't see why they wouldn't.
Was there a snafu with the address? Is that
Yeah.
what I heard last?
Yeah, they didn't have the clubhouse address. All they had was this address here, which happens to be Fairfield County. And so what they wanted me to do was write a letter to them saying that please, that's the address where we want the permit, use this address as our mailing address.
Makes sense.
That's all they needed, yeah.
But isn't the clubhouse and the golf course on our footprint, and that should have been?
Yeah.
I guess I'm
It's all about the address. I mean, it's the same thing when we tried to do the gambling. We wanted to have the gambling down there at the clubhouse,
Right.
but we couldn't because our mailing address was here at the lodge in Fairfield County.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would happen at a lot of bars, that the billing address would be at somewhere other than the.
Sure.
So it's probably this is red tape.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's a detail.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay.
I mean, it was as simple as sending them a letter.
Mm-hmm. It's just as simple as they can't read it.
Well, yeah. I think it's another one of those deals where they have 45 days to read it.
We've been there
A little
before.
bit like ODNR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's not go there. Thank you. Any other further questions from Randy? All right, let's get on then to committee business and reports. Mr. Martin, I think you have an introduction to make here.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Carrie Ankney as our candidate to be the chair of the Activities for Youth. I believe she has something to say.
Welcome, Carrie.
Just thought I thought I was supposed to stand up.
You are.
All I said.
You are behaving
I
entirely
guess it is my
appropriately.
My name is Carrie Ankney. I know a bunch of you, but I don't know all of you, so I just wanted to come show up tonight, put a face in, let you guys see who I am. I grew up here. We moved here when I was 10 or 11. So I spent my adolescence here out on the lake, working here at the lodge. When it came time to raise my own children, there really was no other place that I wanted to do that but right here at home in Hideaway. So I am thrilled to be taking this next step in kind of my service back to the community that has given me so many memories. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's great, thanks.
We can vote on, we've already accepted Bishop Holtz's resignation. Carrie needs to get some paperwork.
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion with that in mind. I was gonna make a motion pending her family guest paperwork getting put in, that Carrie can be accepted as the chair of the Activities for Youth.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Second from Eric. Any further question? So the motions, do you have the motion down? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking it on. Really. That sounds great.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Patasson, you're the man of the night, I think, on committees.
Yeah, I got 3 of them. I'll start with mine. I'll start with the garden committee. We're kind of winding down a very successful year, and we've made a lot of the things that are making it more user-friendly for the gardeners, and they like it. We got a cart that easily pulls behind the garden tractor, and so instead of having to haul take wheelbarrows and haul the weeds into the woods, because when you pull weeds in an organic garden, you got to kick them far away. We just allow the gardeners to put them in the carts, and I go up there every other day and haul the weeds out. So that's a good thing. We have used committee funds to buy straw, and you'll see that again tonight. Scott's going to introduce the motion. Part of it is the straw. That way they can mulch with straw, and that keeps the weeds down. So things like that. We will have probably 3 or 4 open beds. We'll probably put it out on Facebook pretty soon. We want to make sure that the gardeners are giving up the beds have them in good shape before we actually announce it. And we also have bought a pergola from Lowe's. We're going to put it right at the center of the garden where the picnic table is. We did check with ACC. Although because of Lowe's, it was supposed to be here at the beginning of August, it's actually coming Saturday. So we're going to not assemble it until next spring. It just doesn't make sense to do it now. But it's been a good year in the garden. As far as the airport committee was the fundraiser was a hit. They had plenty of volunteers, and overall everything went very smoothly. All funds and expenses have been turned to the office. He didn't say how much they made. I'm reading from Jim's report, sorry. He said it was successful. We're anticipating 10 to 15 airplanes at the fly-in on October 12th. The pilots and their guests that day will be treated to breakfast at the clubhouse, be a short educational class on the basics of flying for any children who would like to attend. And the maintenance on the airstrip and around the hangar will be done by Todd Cahill and or Brett excuse me. We have permission to borrow the Range Committee's equipment for that. And their next meetings will be September 28th at the clubhouse shelter. And they're going to have a volunteer appreciation luncheon immediately following. And then for the Range Committee, I'm the designated.
Who's going to do traffic control for 10 to 15 airplanes?
They all come in at once. It's going to be interesting.
We're going to build a tower.
I am sure they understand the type of airport it is, and they have, protocols to circle or whatever. And let's hope. Talk to Jim. Well, I'm the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. And speaking of shooting, Range Committee asked me to do their report as well. The trap shoot was a success. They made $802, and a special thanks to Mike Adams, who set up axe throwing and archery. And they had 19 adult shooters and 2 youth shooters. And I would say that twice this year I have taken guests to the range, and they are amazed. Steve and now Dwayne have just done a fantastic job as part of the facility. It's just a fine facility, but the professionalism of the range masters, they say it's as good as anywhere you go, anywhere, the way it's handled. So I pass it on. So now, oh, that's right, I can't introduce a motion, Scott, so you get this one too.
This is another one?
That's the range. So why don't you do the two motions for me and
I
then.
don't know if I can read it. What am I making a motion?
Oh, wait, let me do it, and then you make it, Scott is making a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that Greg read this for me.
All in favor, say aye.
And this is the range committee report, but the motion we need is to reimburse Dwayne Mickey $66.16 and Steve Cundiff $119.38 for expenses related to the recent trap shoot. You don't need a revenue in the motion.
I'd like to make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Eric seconds. Any questions?
Don't screw up the garden one.
No.
That one's near and dear to me.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Was that all? That's all.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to reimburse Greg Patassin $656.05 from Garden Committee funds. $372.56 of it was for a pergola, and $283.49 for straw and other supplies.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Okay.
Mary Beth seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Tim, I've got the receipts and paperwork on both. I'll give it to you after the meeting.
Okay, I have paperwork right here. I'll bring them over here as soon as I get it out. Right now I have, for activities for youth, I guess, they have an event for October 5th at 7 p.m. It's a stargazing night. It's at the ORV shelter house at the ORV track. We've already talked to the ORV committee and they're fine with it. And, so I'd like to get a motion to approve that event.
Second.
A second from Eric. Have they gotten approval with the weather guys to be?
I don't know. They've got some stargazing professionals that are coming out, or maybe they're actually enthusiasts, according to this.
Okay. I've spent a lot of time in the astronomy world. A cloudy night ruins your.
We're still gonna have a fire and some hot
Sure.
dogs. So
Can you repeat the date? Sorry.
that would be October 5th at 7 p.m. at the ORV track.
Thank you.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We'd also like to get the date for the dam jam. I don't know if it's been approved. It's on the calendar in the office, but we're unsure if it has actually been approved, and that will be June 27th, 2020.
I don't think we've approved it, so that sounds good. Second by Eric. I don't think social's done anything other than.
Well, we're always the Saturday.
No.
In case anybody didn't know the background on it, it's always the Saturday before the 4th of July.
No, that's actually, that's good. We'll just get it going. That's not a problem. Any further questions? Did we get a second for that? Eric, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We got it, AMGMD.
I believe that's all I have.
Let's go to the treasurer.
Secretary.
You're next. We always just
Sort that out.
usually the way we just go around the
Of
table.
course, I have a mint in my mouth. Okay, so I have the communications committee, and as part of this, I'm trying to introduce all of the committees through the ECHO over time. Carrie, who's leaving, was nice enough to help me. I was just commenting that you were helping me write about your committee, so thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome to stay, but you can leave if you
Yeah, now I'm done talking.
Jenna's at home, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And this month I did one about the barn committee, which is my other committee I have. So I'll probably come around to everybody eventually. It's gonna take a while, but I thought maybe this will introduce some ideas to people who are at home and not coming out and make them feel more welcome. And I know there is information on the website, but hopefully it'll be a little more personal and some fun facts, tidbits, things like that. Also, trying to increase maybe e-blasts going out. Some people aren't on Facebook. And so if we can combine ways of communicating things, I'm hoping that will help and make people feel more connected. And also, there's been discussion about perhaps doing photographs of things that the board or management has approved, improvements for Hideaway. There's always things going on that you guys approve, improve here, but it seems like members maybe aren't always aware of that. And so this would sort of say, here's where your money's going. And this is an actual representation, like the lake's down now, we're working on this, and maybe have photographs going out more to members so they can see all the good that's being done. And it made them feel more connected that way. So that's about it on communications for right now. The barn, they have Boo at the Barn coming up October 26th. They would love everybody to come out. It sounds like it's going to be fun. They might be selling pumpkins. They may have some other animals there besides horses. And they're going to have food, of course, and it sounds like it'll be good. They're looking for volunteers also, if anybody wants to help the day before or the day of, and there'll probably be something going out asking for candy as well. So you can wear a costume or not, Scott.
I was there last year, I did not wear a costume.
They said people can wear a costume or not, and come on out.
Very
So
good.
that's it for me.
Family-friendly costumes, Tim.
Yes.
That's right.
That's
right.
I certainly highly encourage that for the family barn event. Yes, it would be. And I guess I'm only on food service and management, so we've already had those covered. But I did want to mention that Mary Beth has agreed to have a vacancy on the delinquency committee, and she's going to join us on the delinquency committee. So I don't think that needs an appointment. It's usually. What do you think? It would just be, she agreed to do it, so. Moving on, you're up.
Don't ask again. She might say no.
I'll volunteer someone else.
No, I didn't ask her tonight either. She committed about 3 weeks ago, and I was hoping she'd forgotten, so it'll just be done, but no.
No updates from the pool committee. They're still waiting for their project to execute. The long-range planning committee has submitted us their 5-year plan, which we're going to talk about later in the agenda.
Nothing from the off-road committee. Social committee, this coming Saturday, 21st, they're having their grilling competition down at the amphitheater with music following. They're having a chili cook-off on October 12th. And that's all been approved. And they have already reserved Top Gun for next Labor Day's concert. I think that's September 5th, which the concert that they just had this past Labor Day was awesome. And everybody that I talked to really thought it was a great concert. And that's all they have at this time.
Thank you. Eric,
I have nothing.
Tony.
The golf committee had a successful Calcutta, big turnout and perfect day for it. The golf committee did an excellent job on that. They got a couple more events planned. The Hills Cup is coming up, and they also have a night golf coming up a little later. Health and wellness, continuing to raise funds. They're working on a cookbook, and they're continuing to sell bricks, and they're getting ready to pour the concrete floor. And that's it.
See, when is that going to happen?
They're trying to get with Dave Lee, who's working with them, and with Mark Truman, get them together and make sure everything's kosher before they do it.
Yeah.
So hopefully soon.
Yeah, Dave's been gone, I know, but he's
on vacation.
He's now back, so yeah.
Are they pouring over the old floor, or they tear that out? If you happen to know.
They tore the front half out where they had to put new plumbing through, and I believe they're just going to pour the front half. Back half was pretty good, but the front half was all unlevel.
The plumbing's all done.
Good deal. Anything further?
Jim?
Yes.
Two things. First, on Saturday, the 21st, at 11 to could be 1 to 3 here in the great room. There's 3 groups doing a thing called Gifts That Give. It's all donations, and all the proceeds they're asking for donations for a lot of items. Many of them have been given from the Roy Smoot, from the quilts and things that came out of the Smoot family. The Field of Dreams, which is the Uganda project, will be here selling items made in Uganda. Those, whatever they raise in donations, will go to them. And then I cannot think of Marty Gossett's charity that's women. But it's basically people donating things that are going to be offered for donations to go back to the charities. So, and the last thing I'd like to ask all the board members, a reminder, get back to your committees who've got amenity projects that have not yet been completed, because there's always a crunch at the end, and if they don't get it done, they can lose the funds, and it's also makes it really hard for the long-range chair to figure out how much the funds are going to be available for amenities. So remind your committees to get it going.
Thank you. That's actually a really good point, because Annie and I were talking a little bit. She's with the board rep for long-range planning about the amenities process and providing a little more structure and a little more process in terms of maybe upping the dates for submission, and then even having a group that might review those, an independent group review those before the actual vote by the committee chairs. Given that we're still at the beginning of September, we have a little bit of time to put that in place, but we're talking about that, and hopefully by the next meeting we can come back with a proposal that covers those pieces. Anyway, any further questions? Any more committee business? All right, let's adjourn the meeting to go to open forum. All right, I have Mr. Benson who would like to speak. Or you got a question mark next to you?
Well, I didn't know if somebody was going to speak for me or I need to speak.
I think it'd be best if you did it.
For myself.
Come on up to the microphone and.
Well, I'm a little nervous actually. This is only the second board meeting I've ever attended in 20 years, and I know you guys obviously have a lot on your shoulders, and I don't envy any of you for some of the challenges that you have. Anyway, the home office for the Rising Sun Missions is a little cabin down at 701 Natchez. And we have a board, most of the members are from Hideaway Hills, and our mission is to feed and educate 150 to 200 children in the Dominican Republic, which includes the whole village of Haitians. And we have 6 staff members down in the Dominican Republic that do that day in and day out. And we do that on a dime. We operate on $27,000 a year. There are no administrative costs, but one of the things that we'd like to do, and I have a meeting with Brandon tomorrow, is to purchase about 70 meals on the evening of December 3rd, Tuesday night when the lodge is closed. And if we can invite people here, I can work out the menu with Brandon, and we'd like your approval because that fundraiser fed 3,000 children last year. And we'd like to do that again with your permission. And I hope we didn't screw up the ethics committee by getting more than $50. I'm not sure.
I don't believe it's a committee.
Can you scratch that out for December 3rd? I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. And Greg, you indicated from the chapel committee that you guys were interested in, I mean, because usually for events we have one of the committees.
There's not been any discussion between chapel and.
Okay.
We met with Ty a couple weeks ago or 10 days ago.
But I talked with him, well, last week, and he said there's nothing that he knows about.
I guess it isn't necessary to have it because.
Well, the question is, can we use the lodge on a night that it's closed and purchase about 70 meals? And Brandon's going to work out a menu with us and the cost and so on and so forth.
Anybody have any questions about that?
So So you would purchase the meals at a certain cost from the lodge, and then you would probably mark that up and sell them to your invited guests?
Exactly.
And then make your proceeds to.
But we'll pay whatever the going cost is.
Right,
Plus
right.
their markup.
Yeah, that seems a little different than what we were talking about last year,
Yeah.
so that's why I was just trying.
That is correct. I mean, no, we met with Bill and with Bill McGlinchey, and that was what we told them, that it would, because last year it sort of got out in front of us.
Right, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, because that just seems like a catered event that you're doing on the night we're closed anyway, seems like a good idea.
We would just like to buy 70 meals.
You know, why will we turn that down?
I agree with you.
Could you do it 7 days a week?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm assuming Brandon and he'll need staff to help, so as long as.
Well, we may not need, we'd hire his staff, we'd pay his staff, whatever the cost is,
As
we'll
long
pay
as
it.
he's good with it.
Brandon's gonna build the facility cost and staff cost into the price of the meals.
Okay,
Great.
And we may help with the staff if it's okay with him. But we'll pay whatever the going cost is to cover his expense, plus whatever the margin may be. Did you have a question?
No, I did not.
Okay, you look like you're
Nope, I was just like,
concerned. Well, body language there, I don't. All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Do we like to make a motion, or do we have to get back to regular meeting to make a motion?
You should, have to get back to regular meeting, but
Okay.
I don't know that you need a motion, in effect, you just.
You're right, because the general manager of the food service is enabled to set it.
It'd be like, Jerry had this place catered out all the time.
Did quite a bit. That's correct. All right. Any further questions? All right. Well, that being said, go visit with Brandon, sir.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming in. That's all we got. All right. Let's go back to the regular meeting. Unfinished business topics, we don't have any listed. If anybody has something they would like to,
E-votes?
that's after unfinished business.
Sorry about
On
that.
regarding
We have
unfinished
it
right
business, are we, I know
Need
we
to
talked
read
about we were going to try and come up with something like the sort of was the standard across the board for when people want to, have the lodge and things like that. Are we gonna, are we using the same, form you guys have been using and we're just going with that, or where are we gonna do something? I think this was different. They weren't using your form last year.
That's correct.
So if they use the form you guys have, everybody's okay with that form and moving forward?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. Yeah, last year it was more of, they were going to do all the prep, and they were gonna do all the work. They were essentially just going to be using our facility. And so the rules that we have, basically for the great room and the shelter house and everything else.
So everybody's getting treated the same?
That's correct.
That's what
And so in this case here, with the fact that Jim and I met with Bill McGlinchey and Bill Benson, we met with them before Jim left, and said, we don't have any problem, we can take it to the board, but generally, if you work with Brandon and come up with a plan that fits, the financial constraints he's under, or the financial plan he needs, then we're fine going forward with it. Yeah.
Mary Beth, when they do stuff upstairs, it's just like, they have a going away party. And somebody will come in and they'll get with Brandon and they'll cater a table of hors d'oeuvres and kind of reserve one end down towards the brewery or something. There's really not even a form. It's not like they're renting the great room, which is when he gets a form out. Last year's got way out in front of us. The guy that was in charge upstairs, just didn't have any control over it, and we wanted to make sure this year, that's why we met with the two bills to inform them that, there's some rules.
Some procedures in place.
Yeah, there's procedures, plus there's rules concerning our liquor license and that sort of thing we had to conform to, and it's been worked out. He just needs to sit down with Brandon, and it'd be just like he's, catering a wedding reception or something like that upstairs.
All right. Let us go to the e-votes. We have them. Almost all are 8-0, but one is a 5-0. So we'll start with the 8-0s. And the first one is an e-vote to reimburse Karen McNabb $336.06 from golf committee funds for club championship prizes. That was September 3rd, and on September 4th, an e-vote to approve a family bonfire and potluck on October 19th at 6 p.m. in the shelter, sponsored by the Activities for Youth, and there would be up to $200 in Activities for Youth committee funds for the event. Also on 9/4, an e-vote to approve Boo at the Barn for October 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. with up to $350 for supplies. On September 6th, an e-vote to approve repairs to Arrowhead and Tomahawk using $55,000 from capital funds, and then the Lakes Committee has volunteered the other $20,000 from amenity funds. 9/6, an e-vote to approve the resignation of Shanna Gordon as Chair of Activities for Youth. Also on September 9th, an e-vote to approve $1,750 in deposit for Pop Gun concert scheduled for September 5, 2020 from the Social Committee funds. And also on September 9th, an e-vote to approve HAH Stitchers Guild use of the Great Room on the 4th Friday of each month, September 2019 through March 2020, and that would be from noon to 4. All of these were voted 8-0. Could I have a motion?
Jim, you've got one more on the other side of that page, and you've got a bunch on the back of the page before that.
The board minutes.
On the back page of the board minutes, it somehow or other.
This was the,
Yeah.
page.
Oh,
Minutes.
we're saving.
One he read on
Yeah.
my paper.
All right.
I thought we were a little short. You got a bunch of 8s on there plus a 7, so.
I see that. Okay, well, let's stick with the 8s, and then we'll come back. It's on the back of the minutes. Somebody's saving paper today.
Accidentally.
Okay, on 8/21, there was an e-vote, no, I'm sorry, 8/23. 8/21 was what we just talked about here, which we decided to discuss tonight. That was the charity dinner here at the lodge. So then on 8/23, we have an e-vote to approve social committee mum sale at the Shelter House Friday, August 30 through Saturday morning, August 31. A chili competition starting at 5 p.m. at the amphitheater, October 12th. First prize $100, second prize $50, third prize $25. The social committee quilt raffle, quilt donated by Marge Gossel. Sell raffle tickets from September 21, grilling competition through the drawing of chili competition October 12th. Social volunteers set up with quilt displayed Fridays and or Saturdays at Lodge and or Clubhouse, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Then a banner from Micah Kesselring performance at the amphitheater during and after the grilling competition, 5 to 8 p.m., not to exceed $60. That was 8-0. 8/28, an e-vote to pay $201.50 to Shirley Kramer from the Activity for Youth Cat Program Funds for stray cat spaying and neutering. The last 8-0 is an e-vote to approve $100 from the airport committee funds to purchase a new windsock. I have a motion to reaffirm these.
Got the back side of that road.
Is that 8-0 too?
Yeah, that's the last one.
Well, it's a real puzzle.
I'll help you out.
I'm not too quick. This is really testing me here. E-vote to approve $483.75 from Lakes Committee funds to purchase the foam blocks for pontoon storage. That concludes the 8-0s. May I have a motion to approve these?
So moved.
From Scott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mary Beth. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. I don't want to read those anymore. Okay, let's find the
Jim,
7.
before we go into the 7-0,
Yeah.
did we resolve the cat neutering program? Is that,
There was still money in the cat neutering
I'll
program.
tell you what the committee has decided, is that they've decided that when the money is gone, there's no more cat neutering program on Activities for Youth, because we don't care about the youth cats. We only care about youth people.
I did find a place, okay, I'm not on that committee anymore, but when I was on that committee, I cared more about the cats. So,
You're welcome to form a cat committee, but the Activities for Youth has their hands full with the youth of
I
Hideaway
understand.
Hills.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, so I did talk with, it was Shanna originally, and then some other people that have volunteered their time and money to try and keep the cat population sort of under control. And, there doesn't seem to be a great solution to this. However, I don't know if one of the committees seems like a weird fit to put that with youth committee.
It came about because Jeannie Green, when she was the chair of the committee, it was kind of a pet project, so to speak, for her.
But there is, if there's feral cats, there is a place in Columbus, cat welfare, of course, transportation there, and they will do spay and neuter for a $10 application fee and $10 spay or neuter fee. And I don't know, I was gonna call them and see if we could leave the cats there afterwards rather than, release. But that's what they do, is they take in cats and they do the spay and neuter program. Most are catch and release though. And so, people on the weekends, if they're driving back to take some of these. The thing is, I think people feel bad having starving cats out there and not having them spayed or neutered. So the answer is, when the money's out, right now as it stands, the money's out.
How many are they doing? Do we know?
We haven't done, as far as I know, we haven't done any until this last one, and then I think somebody contacted you. That's the first I've heard of it since I've been
It's
trying to help
when
out.
Shirley Kramer can catch them, is how it happened. So
Okay.
she traps them.
Okay.
And she also said there's one, by the, maintenance dumpster that she's been trying to trap for like 10 years. She knows the cats. This lady loves cats. And, but she even said that she's getting a little bit old to do it.
Yeah.
And, she doesn't know how much longer she's gonna do it. There's about $250 left in the fund right now. So it's,
Personally, I think cats should be done away with because they destroyed things down there, or maintenance boat and things down at maintenance in the past, and they're not having any more cats, but there's still cats there that, I think it's against our rules to be going down there feeding these cats, but it's been going on for quite some time.
I think a lot of them were getting euthanized. And I think some were getting spayed and neutered. And I think my impression was that they were trying to get like the mom so that they could, stop the litters from being born and overpopulating and doing what you're talking about, Scott. But yeah, the answer is there's no good answer right now.
Okay. Interesting. But there's somebody else who might want to take that on, I don't know. Is that the social committee?
You don't even want to go there.
Range committee?
Did you really say that?
They're joking. They're joking.
Yeah. He did not mean to say that.
I believe he did.
All right, back on to EVO, the 7-0. An EVO to approve, this is from August 29. An EVO to approve $360 from chapel committee funds to the lodge for catering food for the end of the season chapel picnic. I have a motion to approve that EVO.
So moved.
Scott first, who seconds?
Second.
Eric seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
One last is a 5-0 vote. An EVO to reimburse Ty Jordan $100.03 for food expenses at the chapel picnic. 5-0. We have a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Scott again. Second? Second. Tom Matthews. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Jim, a couple things. First of all, that 5-0, that was on a day that I sent out 2 e-votes, and I tried, because I'm going to be continuing to do this until a couple months. I try not to send out 2, but what happens when you send out 2, you frequently, sometimes I'll have to call people, and I don't even have enough to approve a vote is going to get approved, because you've got one, and you think you've answered it, and then the thing comes back. So that's why sometimes I'll tell committees, no, I'm not going to send it out. there was a reason I did it that day, because they needed to get something approved. So, the other thing I would suggest, Randy, you might tell Christina not to back this up, because they did the last one, and it's tough on the president. You know, when you're up there, you're trying to do everything, and all of a sudden your paperwork is all solid stuff.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Maybe just for his, let us save some paper.
That's true, that'd be fun. Actually, yeah, I can print them out myself too for my own master copy.
Okay.
I can do that, that's fine.
Either that, or I'll send it to you where I've got them separate. I didn't separate them this time.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
So
Alrighty,
what do you want me to tell Christina?
Let her back them up then.
Okay.
that's fine.
Don't tell her anything.
And then I'll,
Yeah.
All right, that's easier.
Doing a hell of a job.
It'll be incumbent upon me to remember to do what I just said. Okay, we'll get it. I'll write that note down. Master copy. All right, new business topics. Anybody have anything? Seeing none, let's move on to old business topics. Experience business topics, let's just call it that. Eric, would you like to update us on your
Yeah.
committee meeting?
So you guys all know, I sent out to you guys, all the notes and so forth, had a great meeting, with, some very, educated people on emergency services, first responders, here in the hills. Came up with some ideas, shot down some others. You guys obviously all have the notes. I know that, just give you some updates from the notes. Steve was not able to make the last meeting, so he's planning on attending the October meeting in Rush Creek Township, to talk to them about what can we do about getting them in here quicker, maybe even a contract, I don't know, but just start discussions and see what we can do with that particular department. The other department that calls on us here in Hideaway is Marion Township. And it sounds like the chief there is very progressive, trying to get, really trying to stay on top of stuff and wants to be a good steward for us. We've talked about inviting him to the next meeting, and we're hoping to have a meeting next week. It's about trying to get everybody's schedules, of course, together. Greg Weber has asked, he's gonna ask him to come into our meeting hopefully next week. And just kind of talk about what can we do to better serve our members here about getting emergency responses in here a little bit quicker. So hopefully we'll have some good ideas for us, and we can take it from there. The one thing that we were all pretty unanimous about was one of the things that we can do here in Hideaway to help us is for our members to become part of the Marion Township Fire Department. It's a volunteer fire department. And one of the thoughts that we had was, why don't we put together a advertisement that would go in the Echo, letting people know this. And I think it's a great idea. Marion Township's behind it. I don't know if I don't think we should charge for something like that. And do I need to make a motion to have a advertisement in the Echo to say that we could use we need people to volunteer for the fire department?
He's advertised.
The PSA. No, I think that's.
Well, I guess it is a PSA. So, anyways, that would, in that case, then if we had people here in the hills, they would be given all the devices to be able to communicate and hopefully respond faster for any type of emergency that happens here in Highway. So, again, that's I'll try to get that into the next upcoming Echo, and outside of that, I'll let you guys know how that next meeting goes.
I actually was talking to, just to help you out a little bit, I was talking to Jeff Spangler on something else, and he said he wasn't overly concerned with any issues. The only thing that especially when I talked about some of the things you were thinking about doing, one thing he recommended is that we keep our insurance carrier in mind if we do anything officially as a club, to make sure that we don't put ourselves up, given the coverage we have. Of course, you can always change your coverage if you're going to do something, but it may cost you money. But he said that would be the only issue that he would have, because insurance companies are famous for, if something happens, denying coverage because you've done something that they didn't know about.
Right.
And that was what he said. But he said at the same time, getting people involved and, the sort of the Hippocratic, help, or the Good Samaritan rule that you can help people, those are all pretty clear, as long as you don't set yourself up as a But if we're working with you sort of cover them by working with the township, because the township would have, immune sovereignty on that, so.
Right.
So-
So one of the discussions, of course, we had was how do we create our own internal notification system to have the first responders that we have here in Hideaway actually respond. And the guys that were at that meeting, that were first responders, really didn't like that idea. They said we really would have to take a look at managing that process well, because, you can send out a notification, you got 6 people flying across our roads trying to get there, and then they're parking there and blocking your actual emergency vehicles. So there were some things we would need to work through before it wasn't as cut and dry as I thought it might have been. So.
Yeah. I would think the other issue too is Randy finds, over the years we've been doing this, there are a few folks who are here that have multiple emergencies on a regular basis, and they're not really related to, so how many people would, these are, in a couple cases, they were, really serious health issues, but we weren't prepared, certainly as a community, so we were calling the sheriff, we would call the sheriff or we call the EMS, and after a couple times, and they said to us, so we wouldn't want to put our people in that situation either.
Right.
So, I don't want to throw up a bunch of no's, but that's something to consider.
Agreed. The one thing that I did want to point out on this, and might have been skimmed over, is anybody who's got an emergency, call 911, not the guard check. All right, I think that kind of goes back and forth. 911, they call the guard check afterwards, but get 911 call first. So anybody who's hearing this, that's what it is.
And make sure you get it to the right county too.
Was there any discussion, speaking of the right county, about, like, if you're closer to one place than the other, does the 911 people, are they supposed to know that, or do they automatically send you to Hocking County, to Logan if you're in Hocking County, and to the Bremen if you're.
You have experience with
Yes,
that.
in my multiple experiences, they did transfer me when I had a fire to the Wright County while I was on hold. Yeah.
Right, that's where you're at, and I guess there's some politics that are involved in who responds to what parts, and of course, we got a county line here, and one sheriff's department or fire department doesn't want to go and cover others, and trying to work through that, though. That's one of
I
those.
think that's a great effort.
That's one of those.
Let's keep up with it. All right, assessment vote survey. Let's go.
So, I gave each of you a copy of the survey as drafted today. Pretty much what I mailed out to you the other day. I did want to have one little discussion on, one question that seems to be under debate. So if you go to the second page, 3.2, the question as it's listed right now, given our budget limitations, please stack rank how you would prefer to fund our shortage. One-time increase in monthly HAA fee, increase in monthly HAH fee, can't talk today, spread over 2 or 3 years, and one-time assessment. I was asked questions about removing the one-time assessment. I believe I was also asked to add other. The reason I chose these is because these are our current options for income. So that was the reason behind why I listed them this way. I'm not saying that one should be favored over the other. I know there are arguments that a one-time assessment would not address our ongoing expenses, like labor being one of them as an example, and roads being another. So it was really merely just stating these are all the current options we have for income outside of selling lots that I'm aware of. So it was phrased this way to give the members the option to indicate which one they favored more than another. So if you're all good with that, I'll leave that the way it is.
My only thought on putting the other is maybe somebody had another idea. That was just, I can't think of anything, but maybe somebody else does.
So it's my understanding you can't make a donation to our management funds, right? We don't have like one of the things that's in the long range planning recommendations is to establish a way for endowments to give more funds to
No, we have there's no limitations, that it's not a 501c3. You can't write it off.
Okay, so people could give us funds.
People could just pay the assessment increase that they voted for that didn't pass if they wanted to.
We've not set up a reserve. I don't see if there's any reason why we couldn't. In the past, we have taken back when money market funds and things like that, and CDs actually paid something, when we had some cash in the bank, we would, rather than leaving it in a checking account with no money, we would create it, and we would then invest that money, and then the income that came back in would then be either fed back into the, the mutual fund or whatever, not mutual fund, but money market. It'd be there for us to use, or, but essentially in the last couple of years, I don't think we have any left, do we?
Yeah, there's still several left.
Are there a couple of small ones left? Okay. But anyway, so that's the same idea. So yes, if people did wish to, to overpay or to pay ahead or to do whatever, there's no limitations on that, per se.
List us in their wills.
Yeah, they can entitle a beneficiary of life insurance.
Sure.
So can they? Because why would the long-range planning committee list that as a recommendation for us to make a change to allow that?
I think they're pushing the idea to make it, so they think we can make it tax deductible,
We cannot.
and we cannot.
Okay.
We're not a charity, and we can't do it.
And
We've that's been researched at least 3 times.
yeah, I worked
Okay.
with Rick Levinsky, and he just started laughing at me. And Rick was pretty expert in this whole area about how we would be. He said, Jim, there's no way you can turn yourself into it. I said, well, how about if we would affiliate with a charity? He said, well, then you'd be required to give X amount of your income to the charity. And then, it actually made that part of it be very, very small. So it didn't make any sense. But since we are not, we're not a charity, we're not a public institution, we're a LLC, we're tax exempt, but we are not a charitable.
But that doesn't, going to get back to long-range planning, we could, have a little flyer or make it, ask people for legacy. What do they call legacy giving? I forget what they call it.
I think they call it something like that, yeah.
Yeah, legacy giving or whatever. So people might want to do it. And we're not going to turn them down.
I mean, of course, having been the head of a development operation at OSU, we had a combination of gifts that you could give. One of them, Mary Beth was talking about, you can take a life insurance and make that the beneficiary. You also can set up what you call our endowments. If we set up an endowment, they're either invadable or non-invadable, but the idea would be that you would donate the money and it would never be used for operations. It would only be used, the income would only be used for whatever you chose to do with it. We could do that. We don't have that structure for it. If we do set it up, it'll be a revision to the code, and of course it will require 66 2/3 to be able to accomplish. If we were going to do that, if we wanted to set it up in a structure that we couldn't invade the principle, and that's. I don't think there's no homeowner rules like you.
Kim, if you remember, we received $5,000 gift from Dave Harkin
Oh yeah.
that we used for that Harkin Park.
Yeah. And $50,000 for 25,000, 30,000 for the clubhouse and 50,000 for the deck care. Those are all.
And a building, right? Wasn't the health building donated?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a donation from Frank. No, he sold it to us for $1.
Oh.
He
Value down to 50 cents.
he would prefer to take it as a loss as opposed to. So yeah, now we have that ability. We just have never exercised it. You look like you have a question.
No, my mind's running, but
Okay.
I think you're actually covering it. Yeah.
Okay. So, are we okay with Annie, with the mechanics on this? And you're gonna put other out there? Put other out there.
Yeah, I'll put it.
I have no problem with that. That's my opinion. And then you're gonna try to do it the same way Dennis did with the.
Yeah, I'll create the survey, and then I'll need to work with the office to get it sent out.
Jim or I didn't receive a copy of this. I didn't know if we were supposed to or not. Obviously we
I'll send
were.
it to you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
No, we don't want you to see that.
No, I'm happy to send it to you.
I have mine.
It's not in your packet? Because that's where it came from, it's in the packet.
No, I
was
didn't,
sitting on the.
I didn't print enough.
Oh, okay.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on then to the long-range planning. We have a draft.
We got that.
Yeah.
That was in the packet. Here.
I didn't even have it.
Oh, folks, you gotta get your packet.
We got it.
I didn't like that. I was doing new camera work.
I have two of the,
Well, we got them now.
okay.
The ex officio took care of us.
It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease.
That just came in.
Sorry.
Did you get a text message?
Did you get a text from James Krieger?
I
Yeah,
did.
I did.
I did.
Personal number. I've been getting emails from you, now I'm getting text messages.
Yeah, here it is.
Something during the meeting. Yeah, it was during the meeting.
Sorry to disturb
I'm
you.
like, what is he doing texting me at the meeting?
Oh, you've been assured. I have not
I got it too.
sending you, I'm sorry.
I got a text from you.
You did? Yes.
Okay.
I was sending my research on what I did for him.
Just for
That's for real.
anybody who's watching,
Email.
if you get a text, an emergency text or email from me saying I need money or I need some sort of a thing, it's not from me.
It doesn't really say you need anything, it just says,
Why don't you
Just
reply to
delete
it,
it.
Scott?
Just delete it.
I'm gonna respond.
hey Scott Martin, are you there? I'm
I got
so sorry
lots.
for disturbing you, it's me, James Krieger. I need a favor from you, that's why I had to contact you with my private line. Doesn't say what favor. So I'm just waiting for more information.
It's gonna be weird if it's just the people sitting here getting the text.
I got an email, similar email too, like a
They're
month.
crawling our website.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This happened several times now. First, when Greg was president, then I got a couple of them, but we all did. And then, so I called him up, I said, please, what's up with this? If it's not me. All right, everybody's got the long-range plan. They've put a lot of work into it. Several of us have given them comments previously. I think at this point, we probably need to take one more meeting to review it. And then at the next meeting, look into adopting it or communicating it to the rest of the community as a document. That's not to say that we don't have opportunities to question or make further comments about it and get them to Ken and the committee.
Has it changed much in the last month or so? I mean, we got a copy of it about 2 months ago, and I remember it through its head.
Yeah, I didn't look at it before.
The main
It just
update
came-
Is this the survey, was the survey on,
No,
Before-
so the main things he updated were about the survey and updates regarding the assessments not happening. So they changed some of the language around that in terms of the financial factors going forward.
Yeah, you're right, there's a whole new
But
section
in
on
general,
that
it hasn't
of
changed very much.
2019 member survey responses. And the like.
I'm just gonna throw this out. When I read through it, I thought the 5-year plan was really to talk about what we're looking at doing over the next 5 years. But when I read it, it seemed to be more of a status of highway, which was all great information. But I don't know that I read too much about what was our 5-year, what was going on 5 years down the road. I mean, I'll read it again, maybe I misinterpreted something. Did anybody else feel that was the case, or
Well,
is
their
it just me?
first recommendation was the club should continue their efforts about the assessment increase because that inhibits what you can do over the next 5 years. So I think that was their number one thing they said. And then it talked about better communication, was one of the recommendations as well. And complete accounting, I think especially, well, it was talking about issues affected with the dams and they don't specifically say, but I know we talked about getting out the assessment specifics as well. And open new revenue streams. So that sort of ties back to the first thing, like we need more money to work with. And that's where they talked about the legacy fund. So they couldn't, it looked like those things sort of were
Yeah.
prohibiting making lots of plans if there's no money to do it. That's the way I sort of read it.
I think that's fair. I think it's different, but not unlike previous 5-year plans that we've had. On the short term, the management committee's got a lot more, nuts and bolts things that have to occur that they track, their depreciation planning and their capital improvement planning, and all those pieces are there. But yeah, I think the next step would you know, this is simply advisory to us. Basically another committee to sort of review and tell us what they, and use the survey to tell us what they think the membership wants.
But Eric's got a point, but it's because the committee didn't get the input from people who had ideas that would be looking 3, 5, 4 or 5 years out. And those are hard to come up with.
Okay.
And they are, when you're on the committee, you're just trying to deal with day-to-day things that you have to get done. Let's look 5 years ahead and say, well, what are we gonna do with the golf course in 5 years?
But it really should come from this group more than any other, this group or management. And I know though, we tried 4 or 5 years ago to have a full day planning session and still ended up with almost nothing in terms of long ranging.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing to do, very tough.
Okay.
I'd just like to add, I read the last one and verbatim, there's not a huge difference. So I would actually say to us, we need to start taking action on their recommendations because it doesn't feel like a lot of action is taken. That's why I was asking you about the roads. Like, did we do what they recommended? And you answered my question. You did. You went out and you marked the roads that are in bad shape and where they are. We've outlined that there's at least 5 miles of roads that needs to be fixed. But we need to start taking action on these things. If we can't do our day-to-day, we can't drink for 5 years because to your point, we may not even be here in 5 years if we don't start addressing some of these things.
So when we approve this plan next, does that mean that we agree with all of the recommendations, or we can?
Well, we have the next month to give feedback and all that such. They're not asking for us to approve it tonight.
Okay.
They don't want us just to reach out to them and get feedback? Is that what we're supposed to do?
You can follow it through me, or if you'd like.
We'll come back to the meeting next month and under old business and discuss any feedback, put it together and then give it to them as a recommendation from the board as a whole.
Yep.
Okay. I'll read through it again. It was a great read. It certainly was eye-opening on some stuff.
I'd go read the one that's on the website right now from 5 years ago.
That's
And
comparison.
just compare it. I mean, it's eye-opening.
Homework assignment.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the Lodge deck project. Thank goodness. We have some progress. We have, believe it or not, a approval, a permit. It's still out of compliance from Fairfield County. They reviewed, we got the plan all submitted and turned in, stamped by the engineer and the designer. So that all went in. They had it for a little over a month, and they brought it back and said the plan structure is fine, no issues with it whatsoever. But the one question they wanted was an ingress and egress plan. That's the only thing that they want. Well, given the capacity that we would have on the deck, to be able that we could get the people off the deck. When we had the phase 1 and phase 2, we had another couple sets of steps coming down. I immediately got a hold of Dave Lee. He and I looked at that, and Dave came out and he's looked at, fortunately, our steps here are code compliant. The back steps that we have off of the deck. Then we started looking around, but they probably can't hold, the capacity is like 72 people. So they're not in compliance to be able to get that many people off. So the other issue we always thought was to come back through the lodge. And he strongly recommended we not do that, because then that brings up the issue of a code compliance review of the entire lodge facility. So what he recommended, and what we've gone on to do now, is we're just going to build a small set of steps, which will be code compliant off the front of the deck. It'll be part of the same structure, since the deck itself is stable and isolated from both the building and everything else. The adding the set of steps that are out there will be a fairly simple process. He drew them up, and we're finishing up that right now. At the same time, we do have a building permit to go forward with what we've got. And so that's where we're at with the county at this point. So what I'm asking you today is to look at the forms which you have in front of you. We have on top what the funds are available at this time. And then down below are the expenses of the contracts that are pending. We have not signed any contracts. I didn't want to go through to do any of that until we spoke. Daisy Hill Farms will drill the holes, pour the concrete, and put the rebar cages in for $12,000. Our JV Contracting is a guy who builds, rebar cages. There's 18 of them, and he gave us a price of $4,900 for that. I asked both Ruth Miller and Dave Lee to review that. They both said it looked fine, and they recommended we do that. Construction assembly, we've had that bid for a while. Mark Truman, Matt Woodrum, and Gig isn't on the list, but he also is going to work with them, is $20,000. Lumber and materials, the quote we have from Holmes from earlier in the summer was $29,627. I think we've done some things that'll bring that price down, but then we're going to add a little more wood here when we build those steps that are down. So it's a good number. The guy's done 4 different bids for us, and I couldn't go back to him again until I got an idea that we were ready to go forward. Fairfield County fees, it cost us $130 to put the first initial permit in, and then the remainder for essentially the use at the very end of the process will be $435. And then Woodrum's giving me he and I are talking about the cable rail going forward. The costs that we have are $66,962. Funds available are $76,202. And so what I'm asking for is to be able to go forward and sign the contract with our JV Contracting to get the cages built, and then move forward with both Daisy Hill Farms and Matt Woodrum and Mark Truman. So that's where we're at.
Jim, the Food Fellowship and Fund Committee amenity money,
Yes,
wasn't that designated for
furniture.
Yep.
It was. There were 2 of them there. One was $5,000 from the social committee,
Right.
and the 15 is from the was for furniture. So we will have to tap into this money under this project.
We would need a board motion.
Oh, yeah,
Oh yeah, we'd definitely come back when we get those pieces all put together.
Yep.
And I would ask, Kathy and she'd probably bring it. I don't know if food services or not, because it's sort of a subcommittee of food services. But that's where we're at. Again, we thought about going back through the lodge, but Dave really recommended that the simplest and smartest thing for us to do is just to build another set of steps off the front. Dan has designed them, and indeed, if somebody had the energy and wanted to go after phase 2, if it works well enough and everything is, that he would make it compatible with, or at least be usable with phase 2 in a different way. So
you're looking at the net available to do the stairway and the cable railing?
Yeah.
Cover that?
Yeah.
That seems within.
And this is 100% donations of people.
except for the amenity stuff on the bottom. Everything on the top is.
Okay. So what do you need at this point to get done? A motion?
Do we need a motion?
You're gonna sign a contract, I think so.
Yeah, I think we probably will. The contracts, the only one that would cross over the threshold management would be, but this is a committee of the board. Because Truman's the only one that's gonna be that. No, let's just do it.
I move we get it done.
There's a motion on the floor. Second from Tim. Any further discussion? And I will continue to update you at every board meeting. I will bring back where we're at, what we spend, we have, and I promise that to you.
Just to be clear, your motion is get her done.
Get her done.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, folks. Maybe the guy with the rebar said he could get them done, he thought, within 10 days, so we could be digging fairly quickly. And I know Matt Hobbs is calling me regularly, wondering when we're gonna get going on it, so hopefully I'll let you know. That being said, any new members?
So we have no club-owned lots sold this last month. From new members, we have Beth Pfaff Bruckner, lots 1592 and 1593. Chad Hacker and Emily Elizabeth Hanschel, lot 579. Paul and Daphne Metz, trustees, lots 1081, and 1082. Ashley and Crystal Sorensen, lots 1239 and 1242. I'd like to make a motion to accept these members.
Second from Eric. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda. September, after that, I think we're done. Any additional business from anybody? We think we take a 5-minute break. Is it at 9 or 8:45, Randy?
9.
We
Should have talked a little longer.
I know. Anybody wants to take a break?
Get a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, I'll make the motion.
Okay, second.
Scott and Eric, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hang on, we got an article 9.
8:39.
Shut off the camera.
Oh, yes. Okay, so.
I move we have the Article 9 to 8:45.
Let's do that, Randy, from now on. Let's do 45, because if we run long.
They can sit one
They can
foot
stay
in.
long.
Okay.
Are you driving back tonight?